Welcome back, dear listener, to another quiet journey through time with Sleepy Historian, your companion for boring history for sleep, soft-spoken history documentaries, and calm bedtime storytelling. If you're here to unwind, to let the day fall away, or to simply listen to relaxing history to fall asleep to, you're in the right place. Tonight, we drift into the slow-moving currents of the ancient Nile, wandering softly through a world where dreams were not only symbols, but omens, guides, and sometimes shadows that the pharaohs themselves sought to soothe. Before we begin, if this kind of gentle storytelling helps you rest, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you peace. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's strangely comforting to know who else is out there, drifting into sleep to the same murmur of history, the same soft unraveling of long-forgotten stories. As you settle in, perhaps dim the lights, adjust your pillows, and allow your breath to slow into a steady, familiar rhythm. We will move slowly tonight, letting the sands of ancient Egypt shift quietly beneath our feet. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of the Nile at dusk, where the air cools gently and the sky deepens into muted violet. In this stillness, you can almost hear the distant hum of civilization that lived by patterns as predictable as the rivers rise and fall. Across this episode, we will explore four calm, wandering paths through the ancient world. The quiet patterns of daily Egyptian life, the soft contours of a biography carved into stone, the lingering mysteries that archaeology gently uncovers, and the subtle contrasts between those who labored and those who ruled. And woven through it all is our central question. How did the pharaohs protect themselves from troubling dreams, the nightmares they believed could shape their destiny? The answers lie not in drama or intensity, but in small rituals, whispered prayers, faint lamps burning through the night, and the steady rhythm of a world that believed sleep was a doorway to the divine. So let the mind loosen. Let your thoughts drift like papyrus boats on the water, and allow this soft, unhurried journey into the past to carry you gently toward rest. Let the gods whisper, let the stories unfold, and let us begin. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of an ancient Egyptian village long before sunrise, when the sky is still a deep, restful blue. The air is cool and quiet, carrying the soft scent of damp earth from the riverbank. A faint breeze drifts through narrow pathways lined with mud brick homes, each one simple, each one shaped by hands that lived in rhythm with the Nile. It is a moment suspended between night and morning, a calm threshold where the hum of daily life has not yet begun. In this early stillness, you can hear the gentle rustle of reeds as they sway against the river's edge, and perhaps the distant call of a water bird stirring awake. The world feels muted, almost hushed, and it's easy to imagine the villagers sleeping within their homes, wrapped in linen sheets, dreaming under the watchful gaze of protective gods painted on their walls. Sleep was a sacred space to them, a quiet realm where divine messages could slip through the veil and touch the lives of ordinary people. As the faint glow of sunrise slowly begins to appear, more shapes take form. Clay jars lined neatly against walls, woven baskets filled with grain, wooden stools arranged around small hearths. These humble items fill the spaces where families lived, worked, and rested, each one part of a daily rhythm that remained steady across centuries. Even the tools left beside doorways hold stories. A farmer's worn hoe, a potter's smooth paddle, a fisherman's net carefully mended thread by thread. Soon, the first traces of movement begin to ripple through the village. A woman steps outside, carrying a worn jar to the riverbank. Her footsteps crunch softly against the packed earth. She walks with practiced ease, her mind still quiet from the night's rest. The Nile before her glimmers softly, barely awake itself. She lowers the jar, letting the water rise and settle before lifting it again. The weight is familiar, the motion steady. This task has been done by countless generations before her, and countless after. Nearby, a small child stirs from sleep, blinking slowly against the growing light. The home around him feels warm and close. He moves toward the doorway, draws back a rough linen curtain, and steps into the morning air, where his mother greets him with a soft hum, a tune passed down like a quiet inheritance. The rhythm of their lives is gentle yet constant, shaped by the predictable cycle of work, rest, and the river's rise and fall. As the sun climbs a little higher, the village grows gradually louder, though never hurried. Men gather tools for the fields, where the dark soil, enriched by the annual flooding, promises a day of steady labor. The air grows warm, then warmer still, but the people move at a measured pace. Labor in ancient Egypt was demanding, but it was continuous, predictable, almost meditative. They understood the land and the seasons with intimate familiarity. You may imagine yourself walking slowly between rows of crops, feeling the soft dust rise beneath your feet. Farmers bend to tend the plants, their movements slow and even. The fields stretch out in wide, calm expanses, green and gold patches against the endless horizon. A distant overseer watches, but even his presence feels subdued in this quiet telling. The harshness of their labor is softened here, replaced by the steady cadence of work that has been repeated for centuries. Beyond the fields, the river remains the central artery of their lives. Boats carved from wood glide across its surface, carrying fishermen, traders, and scribes who travel between villages. The oars slice the water in gentle, rhythmic motions, each stroke creating a soft ripple that drifts outward until it dissolves into stillness. The Nile was not just a river. It was time itself, delivering seasons, nourishment, and the spiritual heartbeat of the land. Within the homes, women grind grain on heavy stones, the sound soft and rhythmic, like a whisper repeating itself. A pot simmers over a small fire. The aroma of lentils and onions fills the air. The simple meals of the ancient Egyptians often mirrored their lives, modest, dependable, woven into the routines that defined them. And perhaps, as they prepared food, they glanced occasionally at small amulets resting on shelves, eyes of Horus, tiny carved scarabs, and figurines of protective deities. These objects were not decoration. They were guardians of the home, silent watchers meant to ward off misfortune, illness, and uneasy dreams. Because even in the calm, cyclical nature of their days, the Egyptians believed that night held mysteries that could cross into the waking world. The boundary between sleep and consciousness was delicate. Dreams carried weight. Nightmares could unsettle the heart, disrupt the household, or be interpreted as warnings from the gods. And so, within their homes, they kept small rituals to shield their sleep. Cooling oils, soft lamps, simple prayers murmured before bed, and charms placed under headrest to keep the mind safe as it wandered in the realm of dreams. As the morning advances and the village settles fully into its steady rhythm, we pause here. In the quiet spaces between tasks and rituals, in the patterns older than memory, we begin to understand the world the pharaohs lived in, too. Before exploring their chambers, their symbols, and their nightly battles against ominous dreams, it helps to feel the slow heartbeat of everyday life, the foundation upon which the grand stories of Egypt were built. As the day continues to unfold across the ancient Egyptian village, the sun climbs steadily higher, bringing with it a warm, golden light that settles upon rooftops, fields, and the slow-moving river. Shadows shrink, and the world adopts a serene clarity. Yet even in the brightness of midday, life moves with a peaceful steadiness, not hurried, not frantic, but in a calm rhythm shaped by the land itself. Imagine yourself walking along one of the village's narrow pathways, where the walls on either side are made of baked mud brick, their surfaces warm beneath your fingertips. The texture is rough yet familiar, shaped by hands that knew how to mold earth into shelter. These homes are humble, but they hold within them the quiet routines that sustained families for generations. If you were to step inside, you would find a single room or two sparsely furnished, with reed mats on the floor and shelves carved directly into the walls. The household is alive with simple activity. Women weave baskets with steady hands, their fingers moving almost automatically as they shape palm fibers into smooth, curling forms. The gentle movements create a soft, rustling sound, a muted rhythm that blends with the distant calls of birds circling above. A toddler plays with a small clay toy, perhaps a spinning top or an animal figurine shaped from leftover mud. These moments, though small, form the heart of daily life. Nearby, the scent of baking bread drifts softly through the air. Outside the home, a small domed oven sits beside a cluster of pottery vessels. A woman kneads dough with strong, practiced motions, flattening it before placing it inside the warm interior of the oven. The aroma that follows is comforting and familiar, a scent that filled countless mornings across ancient Egypt. Bread was not simply food. It was a symbol of stability, an anchor in a world where the river and seasons dictated survival. Further down the path, you might see a group of men preparing tools for the afternoon. Wooden handles are inspected, fibers tightened, blades sharpened with quiet patience. They speak little, using gestures more than words, their minds focused on the work ahead. Labor was constant, yet they approached it with an acceptance that came from generations of routine. Life was simpler, but not without purpose. Each task supported the community and upheld the fragile harmony they shared with the Nile. If you pause by the riverbank, you might notice a scribe seated under the shade of a small, makeshift canopy. His reed brush glides across a strip of papyrus, forming neat, deliberate characters. The ink, made from soot and water, glides smoothly as he records harvests, trades, or temple offerings. The work is quiet and solitary, demanding precision and patience. Though his role appears modest, the scribe held a respected position in society, one who preserved knowledge, maintained order, and left behind the written traces we study today. Nearby, children gather along the shallow waters of the Nile. They splash gently, their laughter muted by distance and softened by time. Some practice swimming, others chase small fish darting through the reeds. Their playfulness adds a gentle liveliness to the scene, reminding us that even in ancient times, childhood carried moments of simple joy. And yet, even children were taught early about the unseen realms of dreams and spirits. Bedtime stories often included protective gods, wise animals, and gentle reminders to keep amulets close at night. As midday approaches, the heat grows heavier, settling like a warm blanket over the village. Many households slow their activity, retreating into the shade for rest. The interior of each home offers relief. Thick walls trap the coolness from the previous night, and woven mats provide a comfortable place to recline. People rest on their sides, sipping cool water, chewing dates, or closing their eyes for a short, refreshing pause. This midday rest was not indulgence. It was necessity in a land where the sun ruled with unwavering consistency. Even during rest, the Egyptians held beliefs that shaped their relationship with sleep. To them, sleep was not merely a pause from work. It was a state where the soul could wander. Certain dreams were welcomed as guidance. Others stirred unease. And so, before resting, some individuals whispered small prayers to deities like Bes, the dwarf god known for warding off nightmares and protecting the home. His figure, often carved into amulets or painted on walls, served as a comforting reminder that benevolent spirits watched over their slumber. In the heat of midday, imagine yourself sitting beneath the shade of a simple canopy, feeling the soft breeze that occasionally drifts from the river. The sounds of the village settle into a slow rhythm. The creaking of wooden boats, the distant murmur of conversation, the faint brushing of reeds swaying in the warm air. Even the animals move languidly. Goats rest beneath overhangs. Donkeys stand in the shade. Birds perch quietly on branches heavy with sunlight. As the hottest hours pass, activity gradually resumes. Women return to their weaving and grinding. Men step back into the fields or onto boats, and children help gather firewood. It is a gentle reawakening, marked not by urgency, but by an understanding of the land's demands. The Egyptians were masters of adaptation, their lives woven intricately around the natural cycles that governed every aspect of existence. By evening, the stiffness of the afternoon heat loosens. The sun dips low again, casting long shadows that stretch across the packed earth. The air cools, carrying the scent of river water and cooking herbs. You might see families gathering outside their homes, sharing simple meals while exchanging stories of the day. Their voices are calm, unhurried, and familiar. Small lamps flicker to life, their flames steady and soft, offering a warm glow that eases the transition into night. And as the sky darkens, the thoughts of sleep begin to take hold. That quiet, mysterious realm where dreams drift in like travelers from another world. But before we enter that space fully, before we explore how the pharaohs themselves confronted the shadows of restless dreams, we linger here in the fading light, absorbing the gentle rhythm of ordinary life. A life built on patience, routine, and a deep relationship with the forces that shaped their world. As night approaches in the ancient Egyptian village, a gentle transformation unfolds. The soft glow of sunset washes over the fields, casting everything in rich hues of amber and deep rose. The Nile reflects these colors like a long, shimmering mirror that stretches toward distant temples and unseen settlements. The day's tasks slow, then pause, as the people prepare for the hours of rest, hours they viewed with reverence, caution, and quiet anticipation. Imagine yourself walking through the village at this peaceful moment. The air cools noticeably, carrying with it the faint scent of river water and the delicate aroma of herbs crushed beneath passing footsteps. From nearby homes, you can hear the quiet clatter of pottery as families prepare their evening meals. The sky grows softer, the first stars emerging like tiny lamps scattered across a vast ceiling. This twilight, gentle and expansive, marks one of the most soothing moments in their daily rhythm. Inside the homes, families gather around simple dishes. Clay bowls are filled with lentils, stews with leeks and onions, and flat loaves pulled fresh from earlier baking. The conversations are subdued, not urgent, but reflective, stories of small successes, minor frustrations, and the subtle changes they observed in the river or fields. Children listen with half-attentive minds, their energy waning as the night deepens. The warmth of the meal, the closeness of family, and the steady rhythm of storytelling all combine to ease them toward rest. When the meal concludes, the next phase of their evening rituals begins. Women tidy the cooking area, brushing away stray ashes or crumbs. Men secure tools inside the home, ensuring nothing is left outside that might be disturbed by wind or curious animals. Children wash their hands and faces with cool water drawn from jars, kept inside to maintain freshness. It is a calm, practiced routine, one that would feel familiar to them across decades of life. As darkness wraps itself more fully around the village, small oil lamps flicker to life. Their light is delicate and golden, swaying gently as if breathing along with the evening. Shadows move across walls made of mud brick, adding a dreamlike softness to the interiors. For the ancient Egyptians, these quiet hours before sleep were not merely transitional, they were protective. Evening was the time when the boundary between the day's physical world and the night's spiritual one began to blur. Before lying down, many families placed small protective items near their bedding. A carved figure of Bes stood by many headrests, round-bellied, bow-legged, and fierce in expression, despite his role as a kind protector. His presence was believed to keep harmful spirits and unpleasant dreams at bay. Some homes also kept amulets shaped like the eye of Horus or small scarabs, each symbol carrying a unique protective power. These objects were more than decorations. They were companions into the unknown landscape of sleep. Picture a family settling into their resting space. Their headrests, carved from wood, lift the head slightly. Though unfamiliar to modern sensibilities, these supports were valued for their durability and protection from insects. The bedding, simple linen sheets, and woven mats, carries the coolness of evening air. A faint breeze moves through the doorway, bringing the distant scent of the river and the rustle of palm leaves. Everything feels steady, grounded, and safe in its gentle simplicity. As the children drift first into sleep, adults settle into whispering conversations. Some discuss dreams from the night before, mentioning symbols or unusual scenes that lingered in their memory. Dreams, whether pleasant or unsettling, were not dismissed lightly. They were viewed as messages that came from realms beyond the waking world, from ancestors, gods, or the spiritual forces that lived just beyond human perception. Even an ordinary person's dream could be interpreted as a sign, a hint, or a warning. Occasionally, a family member might recite a protective charm softly. These charms were not dramatic incantations, but delicate phrases meant to comfort and reassure. They invoke deities like Bes or Tarit, guardians of mothers, children, and the vulnerable spaces between waking and sleeping. Their words invoked safety, peaceful rest, and freedom from wandering nightmares. This ritual, spoken gently under flickering lamplight, helped ease the mind into a calmer, more trusting state. Outside, the sounds of the village grow faint. The animals settle, the laughter of children fades, and the steady chorus of nighttime insects begins its gentle rise. The river, eternal and patient, continues its calm flow, reflecting the moon in soft fragments. If you stand quietly at the edge of the village, you can hear only the whisper of water against reeds and the distant, soothing trickle of irrigation channels. The rest of the world falls away, leaving only the rhythmic breath of a community at rest. As the night deepens, the connection between dream and reality feels stronger to them. The ancient Egyptians believed that during sleep, a part of the soul, the Ba, traveled freely, visiting distant places, communicating with spirits, or receiving guidance from gods. This belief granted sleep a sense of importance that shaped their entire nightly routine. And yet, despite this awe, they gently feared the darker side of dreams, the nightmares that could unsettle the mind and foretell misfortune. But tonight, in this calm scene we imagine together, the village rests securely beneath a sky full of stars. Lamps dim, conversations fade, the cool breeze continues its gentle movement, and peace settles into every corner of the home. Before we move on to the world of the Pharaohs, to their guarded palaces, sacred rituals, and their own deeply held fears of troubling dreams, we linger here a moment longer, appreciating the quiet strength of ordinary life. For it is this life, simple and steady, that shaped the beliefs and rituals of ordinary people and rulers alike. Now that we have settled into the gentle rhythm of ordinary life along the Nile, we turn our attention toward a very different space, one quieter in sound perhaps, but far heavier in symbolism and responsibility. It is the world of the Pharaoh, the ruler of Upper and Lower Egypt, the living embodiment of divine will and the appointed guardian of cosmic order. Yet even for someone seated at the pinnacle of society, sleep could be a fragile thing. Night brought uncertainties, visions, messages, and warnings that no amount of wealth could entirely dispel. Imagine yourself approaching a royal residence just as the evening light softens into the deep blues of early night. The palace complex rises gracefully from the landscape, its smooth walls washed in the fading glow of the sun. These structures were not the towering monuments we associate with Egypt today. Instead, they were sprawling, elegant spaces with columns, courtyards, and chambers arranged for ceremony, administration, and rest. The air here feels different, still, carefully managed, carefully protected. Servants move in measured silence across the polished floors, carrying linen cloths, small oil lamps, clay vessels of scented water, and light trays with figs and bread. Their movements are deliberate, almost ritualistic, because the pharaoh's presence elevated even the simplest routine into something sacred. And yet, beneath the layers of ceremony and reverence, the pharaoh was simply a person, someone who faced the same uncertainties as every villager settling into sleep at night. But the consequences of a pharaoh's dream were far greater than anything an ordinary villager might face. A troubling dream could hint at famine, unrest, or divine displeasure. A peaceful dream could affirm prosperity, alliances, or the favor of the gods. In this way, sleep became not only a private matter, but a realm of political and spiritual significance. Let us imagine a particular pharaoh, not one tied strictly to a specific dynasty or known historical moment, but a composite figure shaped by the customs, inscriptions, and beliefs of Egypt's long history. In this palace, he stands at a balcony overlooking the river. His silhouette is framed by columns carved with lotus and papyrus motifs. The river below reflects the final hints of daylight, creating a ribbon of shifting gold and silver. His mind, however, is on the night ahead. The day has been long, filled with audiences, offerings, decisions, and rituals. Now comes the time for rest, and with it, the possibility of dreams carrying the weight of divine voices. Inside his personal chambers, priests and attendants prepare the space as the pharaoh finishes evening rituals. These chambers, though not extravagant in a modern sense, were carefully arranged. The walls were painted with calming scenes, deities offering protection, symbols representing the rising sun, and sacred animals associated with rebirth and clarity. These images reminded the pharaoh of the cosmic forces that supported his reign. They offered reassurance, especially during vulnerable moments like sleep. A small stand holds tiny protective amulets, miniature figures of Bes, the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet, and the Eye of Horus. Each one carries a different significance. Bes drives away demons of the night. Sekhmet offers strength and healing. Horus provides vision and safekeeping. The pharaoh touches these items lightly, acknowledging their presence in the quiet, almost absent-minded way someone might run their fingers along a familiar object before setting it down. Nearby, priests recite gentle hymns to the gods associated with dreams. These verses speak of protection, clarity, and safe passage through the world of sleep. The tone is measured and steady, not dramatic. The intention is to calm the mind, not stir the emotions. These rituals may have varied from reign to reign, but the underlying purpose remained the same: to invite peaceful dreams and guard against nightmares. Even a ruler believed that the night was a place where boundaries dissolved. A pharaoh could meet ancestors, interpret signs, or encounter the god Thoth, patron of wisdom and writing, who is said to record the truth of every dream. In some accounts, dreams were thought to be sent straight from the gods, as if divinity itself used the language of imagery and symbolism to communicate with the mortal world. As the pharaoh prepares to lie down, imagine the chamber bathed in the warm glow of oil lamps set into small wall niches. Their flames flicker gently, as if breathing in the cool currents that drift through the room. Incense burns in a small clay burner, not overpowering, but steady and soothing. The scent might be myrrh, or a blend of herbs meant to cleanse the spirit before sleep. The air is warm but comfortable, the textiles soft and carefully woven. The pharaoh's bed is low and firm, carved from wood and decorated with subtle inlays. A linen sheet is drawn across it, cool and smooth to the touch. At the head of the bed sits a wooden headrest, shaped like a curved cradle for the skull. This design might seem strange to modern eyes, but for the Egyptians, it kept the sleeper elevated and safe from insects while symbolizing spiritual support. Beneath the bed, small amulets or inscriptions might be placed, hidden protections woven into the very structure of rest. As he lies down, attendants withdraw quietly, their footsteps barely audible as they slip into the adjoining chamber. The pharaoh closes his eyes, knowing that the world he is about to enter is shaped by mysteries far older than any kingdom. He breathes slowly, allowing the thoughts of the day to fall away. Somewhere beyond the walls, a priest continues a final whisper of a protective hymn. In this moment, the pharaoh seems removed from the power and ceremony of the daylight world. Here, he is not the ruler of Egypt, but a traveler stepping into the realm of dreams. A realm where even kings must release control, listen carefully, and hope for messages that will guide them through the challenges of the waking world. As we linger in this delicate moment of transition between wakefulness and sleep, we begin to understand just how seriously the ancient Egyptians viewed the dream realm. It was not merely a place of imagination, but a meeting ground between human vulnerability and divine intention, a place where fear, comfort, and prophecy all intertwined. Soon, we will step deeper into the significance of dreams for the pharaohs, exploring the rituals, interpretations, and moments when dreams shaped decisions that echoed across Egypt. But for now, we rest in the quiet stillness of the royal chamber, where the flickering of lamps marks the slow descent into the night. As the night deepened across the palace, the quiet routines of protection continued in small, nearly invisible ways. Servants moved softly through the outer corridors, checking lamps, adjusting curtains, and ensuring that no sudden draft disturbed the stillness that the pharaoh depended on. These gestures were simple, hardly noticeable, but each carried the weight of a tradition meant to keep unwanted dreams from finding their way inside. In the royal chamber, a small bowl of water rested near the pharaoh's bedside, calm, unmoving, meant to reflect any wandering spirit or troubling omen before it reached the sleeping ruler. Priests believed that water held clarity, that its surface acted as a mirror between worlds, offering a final layer of quiet protection. Nearby, a faint line of powdered herbs traced the edge of the doorway. This wasn't dramatic or mystical. It was a small, almost domestic ritual. A mixture of mint, myrrh, and crushed lotus was spread gently along the threshold to create a calm, purified boundary. Its scent was soft and soothing, carrying through the chamber in a way that encouraged both rest and reassurance. And somewhere in the palace, a lone priest whispered a final, slow recitation. Not loud, not ritualistic, just a steady repetition meant to guard the hours until sunrise. It was believed that as long as someone remained awake with calm intention, the pharaoh's dreams would stay untroubled, guided toward gentler paths. For most people, these rituals might have felt unnecessary. But for a ruler who carried the weight of omens, decisions, and divine expectations, this quiet network of nighttime practices created a sense of steadiness, a way to drift into sleep without fear of what waited in the darker corners of the mind. The palace became still again. Lamps flickered softly, and slowly, the night settled into its familiar, comforting shape. By the time the first quiet hours after midnight arrived, the palace had shifted into a deeper stillness, the kind that felt almost protective. In this silence, the pharaoh's dreams were believed to take shape, weaving softly between memory, symbol, and the gentle touch of the gods. But the priests knew that dreams could wander, could drift into darker paths, and so they continued their quiet work far from the royal chamber. Down a narrow hallway, a small chamber was kept for nightly readings. Here, a priest sat beside a low table covered with worn wooden tablets. These tablets held dream interpretations gathered from generations before him. Calm descriptions, steady explanations, and gentle reassurances written in careful script. They weren't intended to alarm. If anything, they read like slow advice passed from one era to the next. Each night, a priest reviewed one or two lines, not to predict anything urgent, but to maintain a sense of steady vigilance. Beside him, a clay jar filled with powdered incense remained half open. Every so often, he lifted a small pinch and placed it on a warm stone, letting its soft aroma drift through the room. The scent was mild and comforting, chosen not to stimulate the mind, but to keep it grounded. It was said that the fragrance created a calm path for wandering thoughts, guiding them toward clarity instead of confusion. In another part of the palace, a different priest traced quiet symbols on a strip of papyrus. These markings weren't meant to be read aloud. They were symbols of calmness, gentle reminders of order, balance, and the steady cycles that defined life along the Nile. When finished, the papyrus would be folded neatly and placed near the pharaoh's chamber at dawn, offering a silent blessing for the coming day. All of these small actions work together like threads in a larger tapestry. None dramatic, none intense, just steady, Patient rituals meant to keep the night peaceful, so the pharaoh's rest remained undisturbed, drifting softly toward morning. As the night drew on, passing gently from its deepest point toward the earliest hint of dawn, the world beyond the palace walls remained quiet in its own way. The Nile flowed with its familiar rhythm, a soft whisper beneath the vast sky. Across the riverbanks, the fields rested, their soil cooling under the soft breath of darkness. It was in these hours, the quiet hours just before morning, that the ancient Egyptians believed the boundary between the waking world and the unseen realms thinned ever so slightly. Not enough to frighten, simply enough to remind them that existence stretched far beyond what eyes could see. Within the palace, a spacious chamber known as the Hall of Records of the Night held a collection of carved stelae. These were not dramatic monuments, but rather slow, steady records created over centuries. Their surfaces carried descriptions of dreams experienced by ordinary workers, nobles, queens, and even forgotten servants whose names were no longer spoken. Each dream was paired with an interpretation, calm, measured, and gently phrased, never meant to alarm, only to guide. Some described walking through long corridors filled with soft light. Others described drifting over fields or hearing indistinct voices on the wind. And of course, a few described the presence of gods who appeared not with thunder or force, but with quiet authority. A group of priests gathered here each night. They moved calmly, their linen garments trailing lightly across the smooth floor. One priest read aloud from a tablet, his voice steady and low, the words blending almost seamlessly with the stillness. Another priest made slow observations, noting patterns between dreams that appeared frequently during certain seasons, especially during the flood months, when the world felt more fluid and unpredictable. Their work was meticulous but unhurried, unfolding like a nightly meditation. Nearby, in a small adjoining space, a young apprentice prepared a mixture used for an early morning ritual. He crushed herbs with a rounded stone, pressing gently until the scent rose softly into the air. The fragrance was subtle, a blend of desert plants, dried lotus, and a touch of resin. Nothing sharp, nothing invigorating, simply a grounding aroma meant to ease transitions, to help bridge the quiet of night with the responsibilities of daylight. He mixed the powder with water from a small clay cup, forming a paste that would later be used to anoint the doorway of the pharaoh's chamber. The gesture symbolized stability, a silent reassurance that the forces shaping the dream world were acknowledged and respected. Outside, the breeze shifted, carrying with it the faint rustle of palm fronds swaying in the darkness. The stars overhead glittered softly, not bright points that demanded attention, but gentle reminders of vastness. Egyptians often associated these stars with ancient spirits, travelers who watched over the world with serene patience. Their slow movement across the sky mirrored the slow turning of time, reminding everyone that night was not an interruption, but an essential part of existence. Back inside the palace, the priests continued their patient work. One unrolled a long papyrus scroll that had been carefully maintained for generations. On it were drawn depictions of dream symbols, a falcon in mid-glide, a rising sun peeking over low hills, a boat drifting across calm water. Each image represented something different, yet all shared a common thread, the idea that dreams were not obstacles, but pathways. Quiet clues, softly delivered, meant to help a sleeper navigate the invisible world with steadiness. Another priest traced a gentle line down the scroll with his finger, pausing occasionally as though considering the pacing of the universe itself. He murmured a few lines under his breath. Not spells, not commands, simply reflective phrases meant to center the mind. For them, the world of dreams was not chaotic or frightening. It was simply another landscape, one that followed its own rules, shaped by memory, hope, and the faint touch of the sacred. As time passed, the faintest indication of dawn approached. Not light yet, but a slight thinning of the air, a subtle shift in temperature. The palace remained still, aware that the pharaoh was still asleep, navigating the last stretches of the dream realm. And so the priests continued their quiet observations, their nightly routines, and their thoughtful preparations, ensuring that when he woke, he would do so gently, stepping from the world of symbols into the waking day with calmness and clarity. In these moments, the clash between practical life and sacred belief softened. Everything felt interwoven, each ritual a soft thread in a tapestry both ancient and soothing. And the night, though nearly over, still lingered with a sense of patient mystery, as if reminding every living soul that even in the quietest hours, the unseen world flowed softly beneath the surface of life. As the final stretch of night unfolded, the palace seemed to breathe in a slower rhythm, as though the entire structure rested alongside its sleeping ruler. The stone walls, cool and smooth beneath the touch, held the memory of countless nights just like this one. Nights shaped by the gentle flow of rituals, the steady watchfulness of priests, and the soft drifting of dreams that carried both meaning and mystery. In this quiet atmosphere, the unseen world felt neither distant nor overwhelming. Rather, it felt like a companion to the waking world, existing beside it with a calm and steady presence. In a secluded courtyard, a small pool reflected the sky. Even before dawn, the water held a faint, muted glow, catching the last shimmer of starlight. This pool was used not for dramatic ceremonies, but for quiet reflection. A priest approached it now, walking with measured steps, his linen robes whispering softly against the ground. He knelt near the water's edge, looking into its still surface. The Egyptians believed that reflections were more than simple images. They were glimpses into the boundary between the world of light and the world of dreams. He dipped his hand into the pool, swirling the water gently. Ripples moved outward in slow, widening circles. As they faded, the water returned to stillness, its surface smooth once more. This simple act symbolized the clearing of unseen disturbances, a calm resetting of the unseen forces that shaped the Pharaoh's night. Nothing extravagant, nothing urgent, only a quiet moment meant to bring balance. Nearby, another priest tended to a set of small, polished stones arranged in a precise pattern on the ground. Each stone represented a different aspect of the dream realm: memory, protection, transition, intuition, and renewal. The stones themselves were unremarkable, smooth river rocks gathered long ago, yet their placement held deep meaning. He adjusted a few slightly, aligning them so they caught the faintest whisper of wind. Their arrangement served as a reminder that while dreams could wander unpredictably, the world beneath them remained structured, orderly, and grounded. Inside the palace, the guard stationed outside the pharaoh's chamber shifted his weight, settling more comfortably. His posture remained alert but unhurried. He knew that his role during these hours was less about danger and more about presence, a silent assurance that the path between the sleeping world and the waking world remained undisturbed. The torch beside him flickered gently, casting soft golden circles across the floor. Occasionally, he glanced toward the carved door, taking comfort in the stability of its symbols: lotus flowers, protective deities, and the steady lines of the royal cartouche. At the far end of a hallway, another chamber held long shelves filled with small clay figurines. These figures represented protective spirits, not fierce guardians, but quiet watchers believed to linger near sleeping souls. Their shapes were simple: rounded bodies, softened features, and gentle postures that suggested patience rather than power. Each night, a priest would select one figurine and place it near the pharaoh's chamber. Tonight, he chose a figure representing steady footsteps, a symbol of guidance through the dream world's shifting terrain. He carried it carefully through the silent corridor, his steps measured, his breathing slow. When he reached the doorway to the royal suite, he set the figurine on a small pedestal carved into the wall. The figurine faced the door, as though keeping watch over whatever might drift toward the sleeping king. Its presence was subtle, but to the priests, these gestures served as anchors, quiet reminders that even the unseen realms could be navigated with calmness and respect. Back in the Hall of Records of the night, The last of the priests concluded their tasks. One rolled up a papyrus containing the night's observations, tying it with a narrow strip of linen. Another snuffed the final oil lamp, leaving only the soft pre-dawn glow filtering faintly through high windows. As the chamber darkened, its carved surfaces seemed to settle into silence, embracing the knowledge that another night's work had come to completion. The priests stepped into the corridor, their movements soft and unhurried. As they walked, the gentle sounds of the palace waking, distant footsteps, the rustle of fabric, the muted murmur of servants beginning their morning tasks, mingled with the fading quiet of the dream-filled night. The world was changing again, shifting toward daylight. But in this moment, the final moments of darkness still lingered, carrying with them the calmness of ritual, the softness of mystery, and the steady recognition that dreams, both clear and obscure, were simply another reflection of the human experience. The pharaoh still slept, enveloped in the last layers of his nightly journey, unaware of the subtle work done in the shadows. He would rise soon, stepping gently into the new day, carrying with him echoes of whatever landscapes his mind had wandered through. And the priests, content in their role, prepared for the slow transition into morning, knowing that their vigil had helped shape a peaceful night for the ruler of Egypt. As the first faint threads of morning light touched the eastern horizon, the palace remained wrapped in a gentle quiet, neither fully awake nor entirely asleep. In these early moments, the world seemed suspended, holding its breath between night and day. This was the time when the routines of the common people and the rituals of the elite passed closest to one another, though still separated by distance, status, and the soft structures of daily life in ancient Egypt. Outside the palace walls, the city stirred in subtle ways. Bakers rose before the sun, stepping into cool courtyards where ovens made of packed clay awaited the first loaves of the day. The sound of kneading dough carried softly across still streets, blending with the muted clatter of pottery being arranged for trade. These were not loud activities, more like the gradual reawakening of a familiar rhythm, the same slow cadence that repeated itself every morning along the Nile. Farmers, too, began their routines, moving with unhurried steps through fields that remained quiet under the last traces of dawn shadow. They lifted baskets, checked tools, and paused occasionally to observe the calm line of the river. The land was still cool, and the scent of moist soil offered a sense of comfort. To them, dreams were something left behind upon waking, private, quiet, drifting impressions that dissolved into the day's labor. Yet they believed, gently and without urgency, that some dreams carried guidance from gods or ancestors. A dream of flooded fields might mean good harvests. A dream of a calm breeze might suggest peace within a household. But these whispers of meaning never disrupted their work. They simply folded into the background of their thoughts like soft reminders. Back within the palace complex, the approach to morning unfolded differently. Servants moved carefully down long hallways, their footsteps cushioned by woven mats. They lit small lamps, refreshed linens, and opened shutters just enough to let a delicate glow seep inside. They worked quietly, respectful of the transition from the pharaoh's dream world to the waking world. For even in these early movements, the belief remained strong. The dreams of a ruler shaped the fate of the land. A peaceful night meant a steady day ahead, a day where decisions flowed smoothly, guided by calmness rather than disorder. In the royal courtyard, gardeners began to tend to the plants lining the edges of the walkway. They checked the moisture of the soil, brushed dust from broad leaves, and clipped stray stems with slow precision. The gardens were fragrant but never overwhelming, filled with scents meant to soothe rather than excite. Lotus, gentle desert herbs, and soft flowering plants that opened only slightly before full daylight. These gardens served as a subtle reminder that even within wealth and power, calmness remained an essential pursuit. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the palace, scribes gathered near a shaded portico. Their day would soon begin with the recording of messages, inventories, and decrees, but for now, they prepared their tools in silence. They arranged reed pens, smoothed papyrus sheets, and dipped small jars into fresh ink. These scribes lived between worlds, close enough to the royal family to understand the importance of dreams and omens, yet still grounded in the practical duties of writing and record-keeping. Some had their own beliefs about dreams, often passed down from parents or grandparents, that a dream of still water meant stability, or that hearing a distant voice signaled a need for reflection. The scribes rarely spoke of such things during work, but they carried them inwardly, gentle layers of meaning beneath the surface of their daily tasks. Beyond the palace, in the temples rising high above the skyline, the priests who served the gods prepared themselves for morning rituals. They washed with cool water, stood in quiet contemplation, and repeated soft phrases meant to align the day with cosmic order. From their elevated vantage points, they could see both the palace and the humble homes scattered across the city. This dual perspective reminded them that the rhythm of life depended on every level of society: the ruler who dreamed of symbols, the worker who rose before dawn, the craftsman who shaped clay, and the priest who offered silent prayers. As the sun slowly lifted above the horizon, the city began to fill with warm light. Shadows shortened, rooftops brightened, and the soundscape shifted from quiet murmurs to gentle activity. Never chaotic, always steady. The pharaoh still slept in his chamber, shielded by layers of ritual and care, unaware of the wide world beginning to move around him. His dreams were nearly finished now, their final images drifting away like soft mist before the rising sun. And yet, in this moment, daily life continued to unfold with a quiet harmony. The workers, the servants, the priests, the children just beginning to stir, all existed within a world shaped by belief and routine, by the unspoken understanding that night held mysteries and day carried responsibilities. While the pharaoh's dreams influenced the kingdom, the everyday actions of the people gave the land its true heartbeat. Morning approached fully, slow and smooth, wrapping the city in amber light. The difference between the powerful and the ordinary remained clear, but in this gentle hour, their worlds brushed lightly against one another, each shaped by calmness, repetition, and the soft balance between the seen and unseen. As the morning light strengthened, the palace began to hum with subtle activity. Servants moved with quiet purpose, arranging small offerings of food and water for household spirits, for deities, and for the pharaoh himself. Their movements were deliberate, never hurried, flowing in harmony with the slow awakening of the city outside. The gentle clink of clay vessels and soft brush of linen robes created a muted rhythm that seemed almost musical in its predictability. In a nearby courtyard, children of palace attendants tiptoed along smooth stone paths, trailing the scent of lotus and mint carried from gardens above. They carried small clay toys or miniature wooden boats, using them to play quietly among the shadows of columns and archways. Their laughter was soft and restrained, a careful modulation that respected the calm, yet still allowed small bursts of delight. Even their play had ritual, a subtle recognition that the world was ordered and that every movement contributed to the steady flow of the household. Within the administrative chambers, scribes began their work in earnest. Papyrus sheets were unrolled, reeds dipped into black and red ink, and slow, deliberate symbols began to mark the pages. These scribes lived at the intersection of everyday life and the pharaoh's larger governance. Every note they wrote carried both practical meaning and subtle echoes of belief. That words recorded under careful observation carried the potential to maintain cosmic and earthly order. Their work, though seemingly mundane, was a bridge between routine and the unseen, a soft counterpoint to the night's dreams that still lingered like fading mist. In the residential quarters of the palace, women carefully tended to small domestic tasks, grinding grain, folding linen, or preparing herbs. The fragrance of ground coriander and dried mint mingled gently with the warmer aroma of the morning sun. The repetitive motions of their work mirrored the rhythm of the river outside, steady, flowing, patient. Even for the elite, life required diligence, and these quiet routines created a stable environment in which both the pharaoh and the household could function. Outside, the city's streets began to fill, though movement remained orderly, calm. Merchants arranged goods, woven baskets, ceramic bowls, small carved figurines, each piece laid down with care, never rushed. The murmurs of conversation drifted softly through narrow lanes, blending with the occasional clatter of hooves on stone or the flapping of bird wings. From above, the temples and palaces rose as silent guardians over the city's unfolding day, their shadowed interiors still offering quiet comfort to those who moved within them. Among the workers, there was an unspoken acknowledgement of balance. While some attended to the necessities of survival, harvesting grain, transporting water, weaving cloth, others observed small spiritual gestures, placing tiny offerings, pausing in thought before beginning a new task, or whispering quiet prayers to protective deities. These actions were measured, gentle, and persistent. They created a rhythm that grounded ordinary life in a sense of continuity and reassurance. Back within the palace, the pharaoh began to stir. His eyelids lifted slowly, adjusting to the soft light filtering through shutters. The traces of dreams, guided and shielded by the priest's vigilant care, lingered in the recesses of his mind. Some were images of calm rivers, distant birds, or familiar faces. Others were fleeting impressions, soft patterns that might inform decisions later in the day. Though he held immense power, in this moment, he was simply a human being moving from one world to another, from the subtle dreamscape into the demands and routines of life. Servants noticed his awakening with quiet attentiveness. Lamps were tended, cushions adjusted, and fresh water was brought. These gestures were understated, designed to maintain peace rather than command attention. Outside, the city and the river continued their gentle march toward full activity, yet the calm cultivated through the night carried into the palace, creating a continuity that bridged sleep and wakefulness. The pharaoh would rise and meet with advisors, oversee ceremonies, and attend to matters of state. Yet even in these activities, the echoes of night remained. The rituals performed by the priests, the protective objects placed near his resting place, and the habits of care that surrounded him ensured that the transition from dreaming to waking was gradual, balanced, and calm. Life at the top of society was demanding, certainly, but it too relied on measured attention, repetition, and ritual to remain steady. As the sun climbed higher, the palace, city, and river harmonized into a collective rhythm, a rhythm that reminded all inhabitants, from the lowest labor to the pharaoh himself, of the steady cycles that defined existence. In this way, ordinary life and elite responsibilities coexisted gently, each informing the other without urgency, drama, or sharp contrasts. The day had begun fully, yet the calmness of the night lingered, a subtle reminder that careful routines, protective rituals, and small, measured gestures allowed both sleep and wakefulness to flow together with grace. As the sun rose higher over the Nile, the palace and city settled fully into the day's rhythm, yet a gentle calm lingered in the corners and corridors. The pharaoh, now fully awake, moved through his morning with measured ease. Though decisions awaited him, the traces of night's carefully guided dreams remained softly in his mind. Each choice, each word, each observation seemed influenced by the slow, deliberate care taken during the hours of sleep. It was not magic, not sudden inspiration, but a quiet reflection of preparation, vigilance, and ritual. The courtyards were alive with motion, yet still contained within a soothing rhythm. Servants carried trays of figs, bread, and fresh water, placing them in spots where they would be noticed but never intrusive. The scent of morning bread mingled with herbs and flowers from the gardens. Inhabitants of the palace moved in repetition, folding linens, arranging cushions, checking small objects placed for protection, and lighting lamps that would now burn intermittently to accompany daytime work. Each movement was simple and deliberate, a continuation of the calm order that had carried through the night. Outside, the city's rhythm had grown more pronounced, but it was still measured. Farmers moved across fields, guiding oxen and adjusting irrigation channels. Their gestures, slow and steady, were in harmony with the flow of the river. Merchants opened their stalls, arranging pottery, woven goods, and small carvings with care, placing items just so to catch the morning light. Even the faint chatter of early buyers and sellers was gentle, not the raucous noise of later hours, but a soft accompaniment to the awakening day. These routines, though practical and necessary, were imbued with the subtle understanding that order and calm facilitated not only work but also well-being. Within the palace, the pharaoh walked through halls lined with columns, their shadows stretching across stone floors. Carvings of protective deities and sacred symbols caught the sunlight, creating flickering patterns that moved slowly like reflections on the river. He paused briefly to observe these, a quiet acknowledgement of the unseen protections that had guided him through the night. The headrest and linens that had supported him, the oil lamps and amulets carefully placed, the attentive watch of priests and servants, all had contributed to a peaceful passage through dreams and now into waking consciousness. In the gardens, gardeners moved along shaded pathways, pruning plants and tending flowers with deliberate hands. Lotus blooms were inspected, mint leaves brushed gently, and water in shallow basins stirred occasionally to catch light and prevent stagnation. The fragrance was calming, almost hypnotic, a subtle reminder of the continuity between human activity and natural cycles. The palace and gardens together formed a sanctuary, a space where life unfolded at a gentle pace, even within the complexities of a lead existence. Meanwhile, scribes continued their work with patient focus. They recorded the morning's observations, updated inventories, and transcribed notes from the previous night. Each stroke of reed on papyrus carried both information and a measure of ceremonial respect. This was work grounded in daily life, yet imbued with the awareness that their actions were part of a much larger system, a system that balanced the pharaoh's authority, the well-being of the city, and the spiritual order believed to guide both. Even the children in the palace, now playing more freely, contributed to the measured energy of the day. Their games were subdued and deliberate, echoing the rhythms they observed in the adults around them. They carried small toys, wooden boats, or woven dolls, each used in imaginative ways that reinforced lessons of patience, observation, and gentle care. Through these subtle acts, the values of continuity, calm, and order were passed on to the next generation, blending seamlessly with the responsibilities of adults and the unseen guidance of protective rituals. As the morning matured into midday, the layers of daily life revealed a subtle harmony. From the pharaoh to the servants, from children to priests, each person moved in a rhythm shaped by repetition, ritual, and respect for both the seen and unseen worlds. The city, palace, and river flowed together, each contributing to a calm tapestry of life that was neither hurried nor chaotic. Even with the demands of governance, the flow of work, and the presence of dreams that might linger in memory, the people of ancient Egypt experienced a balance between duty, belief, and simple, comforting patterns. In this way, the final part of the day's story emphasizes the contrast and connection between social classes, revealing that while circumstances differed greatly, the subtle rhythms of life, work, care, ritual, and observation provided stability and calm to all. In the quiet moments between action and reflection, between waking and dreaming, one could glimpse a society structured around gentle order, protective tradition, and a deep awareness of both the material and spiritual dimensions of life. And so, we arrive at the gentle conclusion of our journey through time, drifting softly back from the vast rivers, bustling palaces, and quiet streets of ancient Egypt to the familiar comfort of the present. Together, we have wandered through the rhythms of daily life, glimpsed the inner world of the pharaoh, explored the mysterious realm of dreams and omens, and observed the delicate balance between social strata. All of it wrapped in the calm, slow-moving current of centuries past. Imagine yourself now sitting by a small lamp or lying under soft blankets, the weight of the day gradually lifting, your mind settling into a gentle calm. You may feel the warmth of the sun on your skin or the cool stillness of evening air. Yet your imagination has carried you far away, to a land where people moved with measured intention, where the unseen and the seen wove together quietly, and where even the smallest acts contributed to a larger sense of order and comfort. In these reflections, there is a simple truth. History, even when it involves the unknown or the mysterious, can soothe as much as it can inform. By paying attention to the subtle details of life, the scent of herbs, the flicker of a lamp, the soft patterns of human routine, we uncover a universe of calm that exists in parallel to the stories of ambition, ritual, and dreams. The Pharaohs' Nights remind us that even those who held immense power needed gentle guidance, quiet protection, and the reassurance of measured repetition to navigate uncertainty. And the lives of ordinary people remind us that peace and comfort are found in routine, observation, and simple care. So now, as the world outside continues to move at its own steady pace, allow yourself to linger in this moment. Feel the slow rhythm of life, both ancient and timeless, settling around you. Let the impressions of quiet courtyards, scented gardens, distant riverbanks, and soft oil lamps fold into your thoughts. Let the calm observation of life in ancient Egypt, the rituals, the dreams, the gentle hum of daily activity, wash over you, easing the mind and body into rest. If this kind of soft, deliberate storytelling has brought a sense of peace to your evening, feel free to like this video, share it with someone who might also appreciate quiet history, or subscribe to the channel for more gentle journeys into the past. And if you wish, leave a comment telling me where you're listening from or the time of day when you let these stories carry you towards sleep. There is a subtle comfort in knowing that somewhere else, another listener drifts alongside you, guided by the same quiet river of ancient lives. Dim the lights, take a slow breath, and imagine the faint flicker of lamps along palace corridors, the scent of herbs lingering in warm air, and the Nile reflecting stars just before dawn. Let the ancient rhythms settle in your mind, and allow yourself to drift gently, carried by the soothing currents of calm history. Sleep now, guided by the patient march of time and the soft echoes of stories long past. Good night from your sleepy historian, until the next soft journey through the quiet wonders of the past.